Animation, directed by Chris Sanders, the director of Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Essentially, the plot of this movie is there's this robot named Roz. She crash lands onto this island where it's inhabited by a bunch of animals in this forest. She's meant to be one of those like taskmaster robots. She's clearly not meant to be on this island. This was all a big accident. She's trying to figure out, anyone that might need her for assistance or anything like that. But of course, none of the animals understand her. Most of them fear her. One day though, she finds an orphan baby goose she names Brightbill, and now it's about her raising this baby goose so it can fly off into migration with the other geese, teaching it how to swim, fly, eat, survive. Essentially learning what it means to be a mother and all the trials and hardships and the rewards that motherhood delivers. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie like near the beginning of the year. I think I saw it attached to like Kung Fu Panda 4 or something like that. And it was very discreet, didn't really give away too much. But I saw it, and I saw the director who was attached to it, Chris Sanders, who's made 2 fantastic animated movies in the ones that I mentioned earlier. And I had a feeling, I'm like, that could be special. Apparently it was based off a children's book. The premise seemed, simple, and I'm just like, if they can execute this right, this could be a very rewarding, touching, feel-good, excellent animation movie. And sure enough, the early reactions of this movie were extremely positive. This movie was getting glowing reviews all across the map. And now that I've seen it for myself, I think those reviews are pretty justified. I thought this movie was excellent. So first of all, I thought Lupita Nyong'o's voice really did capture Roz very well right out the gate. Like, she sounded like she had emotion in her voice, but didn't not sound like a robot at the same time. Because that's what I think is the genius here in the character of Roz. Like, she's this robot. She comes to Earth. She's just this taskmaster. She's assigned this task of just raising this little baby goose so it can survive. And initially, her being a robot, she's not supposed to feel emotion. She's not supposed to feel love or really serious care. She just has a job to do, and she's doing it. But in Lupita Nyong'o's voice acting, you really hear what sounds like a very monotone, robotic voice for most of the movie. But as time goes on, and she starts to feel certain things towards Brightbill, to things he does or things that must happen with him, you slowly start to hear more emotion in her. And it makes Roz, as a result, feel more relatable, and as a result, a lot more human. And I absolutely love the dynamic between Roz and Brightbill. And what I really appreciate with Brightbill as a character is that he matures, as he gets older, because he hasn't been raised by a goose, he's been raised by a robot. He's not entirely sure how to socially interact with the other geese, and that's proven to be a problem for him at times. There are times he just acts very socially different. He acts kind of like a robotic goose at times, and it makes him a little off-putting to the other geese, and it makes him feel like he doesn't fit in because he wasn't raised like the others were. But what I love seeing in Brightbill as well is what he has to overcome. It's not just the fact that he was raised by a wild robot, not a goose. He's also seen as a runt. His wings aren't very strong. He doesn't know how to swim. He's not exactly the type of goose that's seen as one that can survive on his own. They frequently bring up the fact that he's alive and made it as far as he had is kind of a miracle in itself. But what I really love seeing in him and seeing in Roz is they're both so determined to get him to get on this migration with the other geese, to get him to fit in with them and learn what it means to survive on his own, that they are trying everything. And that's a great lesson that's in this movie, and that's what I'll say right there. This movie is filled with so many lessons that you can take away from this. Life's not going to give you any shortcuts. Life's not going to make it easy for you. Life's going to beat you up. You're going to get screwed over by things that may or may not be your fault. And that's one of my favorite life lessons in general. It's like life's going to beat you down. Everybody has a sad story, but nobody cares. You got to grind harder. You got to work your ass off for things that you want. And that's what I love seeing with Brightbill and Roz. It's like they keep finding ways. Like, how do we make you stronger in flying? How do we make you learn how to swim? Who out there can help us help you? And that really is where the emotion hits you in this movie right here. It's like you see just what Roz does with Brightbill and how she helps him mature and helps him grow up. And when you see him grow up and it comes time for him to take that big leap of faith and really just start to make it on his own and go where he needs to go, that's where the emotion sits in right there. That's when it really hits. Because it's about him going to make it on his own. It's about really a mother just letting her little boy go. I mean, for me, it's like I watched that and it made me think of my own little memory when my mom sent me off to college my freshman year for the first time, and we hugged goodbye. My mom's an emotional wreck and I'm doing everything I can to hold it together because we both knew that was kind of our Roz and Brightbill moment, I'm heading off to college. I'm going to make it on my own. She's done her job, and now she's going to let me go a little bit. And that is where I give this movie so much credit. It's such an emotionally powerful movie that everyone out there is going to connect with it and feel from it. But what I really love seeing with Roz's character, it isn't just what she does for Bright Bill, it's what she does for the forest in general. Like, namely, there's this Fox Fink, who's voiced by Pedro Pascal, who helps her along the way with raising Bright Bill. I thought he was a great character in this movie because he kind of feels out of place. And then Roz kind of like makes a friend with him and, you know, makes him feel like he's a part of something. And slowly but surely, she finds ways to do that with all the creatures in the forest, that they all look to her. No longer is she seen as a monster, she's seen kind of as this great, like, leader, mother figure to the entire forest. And it really goes to show, like, all it takes is just like one person to really go out there and really make a difference and really bring something to a community. And I think that's really impressive. Also, I gotta say this right now, for as emotional this movie is absolutely hysterical. And what I love, it had a very surprising amount of really dark, morbid humor in it. Never to the point where it's like inappropriate for kids or something like that, but there are surprisingly a lot of jokes about death in this movie. Like, there were moments I was doing like the ooh laugh, or I was like laughing but kind of guilt laughing because what they joked about was pretty morbid, but you're thinking in your head, it's like, can they get away with that? I mean, to be fair, the kids and the adults in the theater were all laughing their asses off, so I mean, I guess the short answer is they could, but I'm really glad they went to those levels, and that was great to see. And undeniably, the animation in this movie looks fantastic. It's very colorful, it's very eccentric. I love the way it looks in certain times of day. It really captured it very, very well. The tone of the movie, the setting, it looked beautiful. If I do have one small flaw with this movie, I do feel there's an action scene in the final act. Basically what happens is, you know, the company that made Roz, they sent all these robots to the forest to come after her, and, you know, she and the animal's gonna stop these evil robots from taking her in. The action scene for me, not that it wasn't fun or anything, but it was kind of out of place. It didn't seem like it really fit in all that well with the movie. For me, it just took me out of it a little bit. I can't deny that. But the biggest positive that I think I could give this movie, that I want to talk about right now, is I really do feel like this is a movie that's only going to get better with time. I don't necessarily mean that in like the more you watch it, the better it gets, like its replay value or anything like that. What I mean is, I feel like this is the type of movie that you will only love more as you go through life more. Like little kids, they're gonna watch this movie, they're gonna love this movie for the jokes and the animation and the characters and the story, sure. But then you'll get older and you'll understand more, you know, the sacrifices that your parents made for you and how hard, you know, your mom maybe tried to make you happy, to make you, you know, set up for the best way of life that you needed. You'll understand more of what it means to really work for something and what it means to just have to let go a little piece of you, to escape your comfort zone in order to do something that's best for you. And honestly, I really think the people who will be hit most by this, who will be affected most by this, and will love the movie the most because of this, will probably be parents. Like, as soon as you become a parent, as soon as you have kids, I mean, admittedly, I'm not on that level yet, but I could totally see one day just sitting down with my kids and watching this movie, and that's when I'm really going to be emotionally just hit by this, because at that point I will understand what it means to raise a kid and set a kid up for success and, you know, teach that kid what it means to make it on their own. And then one day you have to let that kid go a little bit, and it could be for anything. It could be when you send them off to college, or it could be when they're like 5 or 6 years old and you send them off on their first day of school and you're choking up over it. It's like, you gotta let them go now just a little bit. And the more and more you have to do that as a parent, the more and more you will just continue to connect with this movie. And that's what I think is brilliant. Like, this is the type of animation, it's like, it's perfect for families, but it really is meant to hit the adults a type of way. I really respect that. So all in all, The Wild Robot, it's one word. It's beautiful. The voice acting across the board was great. The animation in this movie looks fantastic. It's surprisingly hilarious. I was shocked at the amount of morbid death jokes that were in this movie. It's a fantastic story about family and community, and namely motherhood. Emotionally, if this doesn't hit you in some type of way, you're just not human. You're a robot. And a robot that can't feel emotions like Roz. It really does feel like a movie that's only going to age like a fine wine. I cannot wait to revisit this again one day when I have kids, when I have my own family, because I feel like that's when this movie's going to just really hit me in ways that it didn't the first time around. Is it the best animation I've seen so far this year? I don't know if I can go quite that far yet. I mean, I am a massive Transformers fan, and Transformers 1 is still very fresh in my mind. I really did love that movie, so I don't know if I can go quite that far yet, but that's just me talking. But I will say this much. The Wild Robot is without question, so far this year, the most emotionally impacting movie I've seen all year. And that's a big compliment. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.